The world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. A few years ago, the skies had been quiet and empty, except for stars that twinkled far beyond reach. Then the ships had come. Great silver forms had drifted into orbit above Earth. They did not come as invaders with fire and thunder. They came as rulers with law and order. Humanity was welcomed into something called the Galactic Union. People were told this was a new age, an age of peace and prosperity. At first, many believed it. The aliens looked different yet familiar. They stood tall with features that were not frightening but strange. Their voices were musical and their clothes were filled with colors never seen on Earth. They spoke of unity and harmony. They promised an end to hunger, war, and sickness. For a time, hope filled every city and every village. But with every gift came a rule. With every promise came a condition. Slowly, people began to notice that their freedom was no longer the same. The most unusual rule was announced one morning in a council broadcast that reached every corner of Earth. It was spoken in many languages at once so no one could misunderstand. The message was clear. A new daily duty was placed upon humans. They were required to meet alien women in special halls built in towns and cities. It was described as a way of sharing culture and joy. The union leaders said it would create trust between species. At first, many thought it was a small thing. Go to the hall, share some time, follow the new law. But soon it felt like a weight. It was not a choice. It was not friendship born from the heart. It was an order. In one small village by the river lived a man named Ravi. He was not a soldier or a leader. He worked with his hands, planting crops and building tools. He had always loved the simple rhythm of Earth. When the alien ships came, he watched the sky with the same wonder as everyone else. Yet he also kept a quiet question in his mind. Why had these rulers come so far across the stars only to tell humans how to live? When the new law began, Ravi walked with others to the hall each morning. The hall was tall and round with walls that shimmered like water. Inside, rows of alien women waited. They were graceful and calm, their clothes shining with threads of light. They greeted the humans with soft voices and gentle smiles. But Ravi saw something in their eyes. They looked as if they were not fully free either. Every day the same routine repeated. Humans entered, they sat. They shared words and gestures. Then they left. It was all polite, all peaceful, yet all hollow. No true joy filled the room. It was duty, not choice. Ravi noticed that some of his neighbors tried to convince themselves it was fine. They said this was better than war. They said the aliens had given medicine and technology. They said a small rule was nothing compared to such gifts. But inside many hearts a quiet unrest began to grow. Ravi often walked home with Mira, a young woman from the same village. She carried water jars on her shoulders and spoke little, but her eyes were sharp. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, she turned to Ravi and asked a question that had been burning in her chest. "Do you feel joy in the hall?" Ravi paused. He thought of the alien smiles, the shining clothes, the endless routine. He shook his head. "No, I feel nothing." "It is empty," Mira nodded. "I feel the same. They say it is harmony, but it feels like silence." From that day, they shared more thoughts as they walked. They spoke of freedom, of choice, of the old songs and dances of their people. They wondered if the alien women felt the same emptiness. One morning in the hall, Ravi tried to look closer at one of the alien women. She had long hair the color of silver. Her eyes shone like the surface of a river under sunlight. When she spoke, her words were kind, yet her gaze seemed heavy. As the humans rose to leave, she lowered her voice and whispered, almost too softly to hear, "This is not our way either." Ravi froze. He turned to look at her, but she had already turned her head. His heart beat faster. Her words stayed in his mind all day. The next time he met Mira, he told her what had happened. She listened with wide eyes. "So it is true," she said. "They are bound by this law too." This thought gave Ravi a strange new strength. He began to see the hall differently. It was not only humans who were ordered to follow the rule. The alien women also were caught in the same net. They were told to smile, to greet, to share joy they did not feel. The law was not a bridge of friendship. It was a chain of control. Weeks passed. Life in the village went on. Crops grew, rivers flowed, children laughed in the fields. Yet every morning the people walked to the hall with heavy steps. The routine became part of life, but in every heart a question stirred. How long would this last? How deep would the law reach into their lives? One evening, as Ravi sat by the fire outside his home, he looked up at the stars. The alien ship still shone far above, silent and distant. He wondered what kind of rulers believed harmony could be forced. He wondered if somewhere in the galaxy other people lived under the same strange laws. He wondered if there was a way to change it. In the distance, drums began to beat as children played. Their rhythm was free and unplanned. It carried laughter through the night air. Ravi smiled faintly. Joy could not be commanded. Joy was born when hearts were free. As he listened to the drums, he knew the days ahead would not remain the same. Something was beginning to stir, not only in his own heart but in the hearts of many. The law had arrived. The people obeyed. But deep inside, the spirit of humanity waited, patient and strong. The law had been in place for many months. Every morning the humans walked to the hall as the sun rose, and every evening they returned with quiet faces. The days looked the same, yet inside people carried questions they dared not speak loudly. Ravi noticed how heavy the silence had become in the hall. The alien women greeted the humans with the same polite gestures, the same gentle words, the same practiced smiles. Yet their eyes told a different story. Ravi had learned to read eyes, for in the fields and the markets he had always studied people's expressions to know if they were tired, hungry, or worried. The alien women's eyes carried a shadow that no smile could hide. One morning, as Ravi sat across from an alien woman with silver hair, he noticed her hands trembling slightly as she lifted a cup. It was only for a second, but it was enough to tell him that she was uneasy. He wanted to speak to her, to ask why she followed this duty if it made her unhappy, but he held his tongue. Guards stood near the hall doors, silent but watchful. They did not carry weapons in open sight, but everyone knew they could call for machines of enforcement if needed. Later that day, as Ravi walked back with Mira, she finally spoke what had been burning inside her. This is not harmony. It is a performance. I feel like I am wearing a mask every day, Ravi nodded. They wear masks too. I can see it. Their law does not free them. It binds them as it binds us, Mira frowned. Do you think they would speak if they could? Ravi thought of the whisper he had once heard. He thought of the trembling hands. Yes, he said. But they are afraid as we are. That night, Ravi could not sleep. He lay on his mat and stared at the ceiling. The world outside was peaceful, the crickets sang, the river flowed, yet his heart was restless. He thought of how quickly humans had accepted this new order. The gifts of medicine and technology had been so tempting, yet the price was freedom. Was peace without freedom truly peace? The next morning, Ravi decided to act, even if only in a small way. When he entered the hall, he chose a seat near the silver-haired alien woman. As the ritual began, he leaned forward and spoke softly so only she could hear. Are you happy with this law? Her eyes widened in surprise. For a moment she seemed frozen. Then she looked away quickly. Ravi thought she might not answer, but then in the faintest whisper she said, No. It was a single word, but it felt heavier than stone. Ravi nodded slowly, showing her he understood. She kept her head bowed, but he saw the tension in her shoulders ease just slightly, as if she was relieved to share the truth with someone. When the session ended, Ravi walked out with Mira and told her what had happened. Mira's eyes shone with determination. Then we are not alone, she said. They are bound like us. If they too dislike this law, then one day we may stand together. From that day forward, Ravi began to notice more small signs. An alien woman whose smile faded too quickly. Another whose voice trembled when she repeated the ritual words. One who looked longingly at the door as if wishing to escape. The more Ravi noticed, the more certain he became that the law was not born from joy but from control. The village also began to whisper. People talked quietly in their homes, careful not to let the guards hear. An old farmer named Nalan told Ravi one evening, I remember when we were free to gather in the square to dance, to sing. Now we gather only in the hall. They call it joy, but it has no music. Mira added, I think the law was not made for harmony. It was made to keep us busy, to remind us every day who rules us. Ravi listened and agreed. The pattern was becoming clear. The law was not for friendship. It was for obedience. One afternoon, Ravi saw a group of alien women walking outside the hall, guided by guards. They looked as quiet as the humans, their steps measured, their faces expressionless. He thought about how strange it was that two different species could be made to feel the same kind of emptiness. It gave him a strange sense of connection, not because the law was good, but because both sides suffered under it. That evening, Ravi and Mira sat by the river. The moon cast a silver path across the water. The air was cool and fireflies danced above the grass. Ravi broke the silence. "Mira, do you think we can change this?" Mira looked at the moon. "One person cannot. But many people together can. And if the alien women feel as we do, then perhaps together we are stronger than we think." Ravi nodded. "But how do we begin?" She thought for a long time. Finally she said, "We begin by listening. We begin by speaking small truths. A whisper can grow into a voice, and a voice can grow into a song." Her words stayed with Ravi. From then on, he tried to speak gently with the alien women whenever he could, always careful not to be heard by the guards. Some of them gave no answer, but others gave small signs. A nod, a lowered gaze, a soft word. Each sign told him that beneath the law there were hearts longing for freedom. Meanwhile, outside the halls, the human spirit continued to show itself in quiet ways. Children still played in the fields and laughed. Farmers still sang work songs while planting crops. Elders still told stories by the fire. These simple acts reminded Ravi that joy could not be erased, only hidden. But the more he saw the truth, the more he felt a storm was coming. For laws that force silence cannot last forever. Sooner or later, voices rise. One morning, as Ravi walked with Mira toward the hall, he saw a group of villagers gathered around a sick child. The parents cried out for help, and soon an alien medic arrived with a glowing device that healed the child in moments. The parents wept with relief and thanked the medic. The crowd murmured with awe at the alien gift. Yet Ravi noticed something else. As the medic turned to leave, her face looked tired and sad, as if she carried a burden that the villagers could not see. It reminded Ravi again that even the gifts were wrapped in chains. The law gave medicine, yes, but it took away freedom. It healed bodies but ignored spirits. That night, Ravi dreamed of standing in the hall with hundreds of voices rising together. In his dream, both humans and alien women spoke in unison, saying they would no longer obey. The dream felt so real that he woke with his heart pounding. He looked at the stars through his window and whispered to himself, "One day." The days continued, the hall filled and emptied, the rituals repeated, but change was quietly building beneath the surface. Ravi could feel it. Mira could feel it. The alien women could feel it. And though the law remained strong, the hearts of the people were beginning to resist. The days of duty passed like water flowing through a narrow channel. Every sunrise brought the same walk to the hall, the same ritual and the same hollow smiles. Yet beneath the surface, something new was beginning to grow. It was small, almost invisible, but real. It was the spark of trust. Ravi had learned that silence could carry meaning. A glance, a nod, a pause before a word. These small things spoke louder than the ritual greetings. When he looked into the eyes of the alien women, he saw the same questions he carried in his own heart. Why must we obey a law that calls itself joy but feels like chains? One morning he sat across from the silver-haired alien woman again. The guards stood as always, their faces unreadable. But Ravi leaned forward slightly and whispered, "Do you ever wish to walk outside the hall, to see the fields and the river?" Her eyes widened. For a long second she said nothing. Then she gave the smallest nod. It was so faint that no guard could notice, yet it filled Ravi with courage. He smiled gently, and for the first time she gave a true smile in return. It was brief, but it was real. Later, when Ravi told Mira about it, her eyes shone with excitement. "It means they trust us, at least a little," she said. "If trust grows, friendship can grow. And if friendship grows, this law will lose its power." From then on, Ravi and Mira began to seek small chances to speak with the alien women outside the official words of the ritual. It was not easy. The hall was watched, the sessions were short, and the guards were sharp. Yet small cracks always appear in even the strongest walls. One day a heavy rainstorm broke across the village while people gathered at the hall. The thunder rolled, and the rain beat against the shining walls like drums. For a moment the guards moved closer to the door to check the storm. Ravi used that chance to whisper again to the silver-haired woman, "My name is Ravi. What is your name?" She looked startled, then lowered her head as if hiding her lips. "Leora," she whispered. The sound of her name felt like a secret treasure. Ravi repeated it softly in his mind all day. That evening he shared it with Mira. Mira smiled warmly. "If she trusted you with her name, then she has taken the first step toward us." That means others may follow too. A few days later, Mira herself spoke quietly with another alien woman during the ritual. This one had eyes the color of amber. When Mira asked if she enjoyed the gatherings, the woman hesitated and then shook her head slightly. She whispered, "It is not joy. It is duty." Her name, Mira later learned, was Saren. Now Ravi and Mira both carried secret names in their hearts. Names that were not part of the law but part of true connection. With every whisper and every shared truth, the chain of the law felt weaker. As the weeks passed, Ravi noticed small changes in the gatherings. When he and Mira entered the hall, Leora and Saren would sometimes glance at them with a flicker of recognition. Their smiles, though still cautious, seemed warmer. When Ravi spoke, he felt he was no longer speaking into emptiness but into another soul who understood him. One evening, Ravi and Mira met by the river again. The moonlight painted silver paths across the water. Fireflies glowed in the grass. Ravi told her of the small smile Leora had given him that day. Mira told him how Saren had asked quietly, "Do humans have songs?" Mira had nodded and promised one day to share a song if the chance came. Ravi leaned back on the grass and looked at the stars. "Do you see it, Mira? We are building something small but strong." "A bridge made of trust," Mira nodded. "Yes, and once a bridge is built, people can cross it. One day we will not sit in the hall as strangers. We will sit together as friends." But friendship was dangerous in a place ruled by control. The guards noticed everything. If they saw too much, the spark could be crushed before it grew into a flame. Ravi and Mira both knew they had to be careful. Their words had to be chosen, their voices soft, their movements calm. Still, friendship has a way of breaking through walls. One morning, as Ravi sat quietly, Leora whispered, "Do you miss your freedom?" Ravi looked into her eyes and answered simply, "Yes. Do you?" Her eyes filled with something heavy, like unshed tears. She gave the smallest nod. That moment bound them more deeply than any ritual ever could. Later, Mira told Ravi that Saren had whispered something similar. "She asked me what it feels like to dance. I told her it feels like flying without wings. She said she has never danced." Ravi thought about that for a long time. The alien women were as bound as humans, maybe even more so. They had not only lost freedom, they had lost simple joys of life. That night, Ravi sat outside his home while the drums of the children echoed in the distance. He imagined Leora and Saren hearing those drums, seeing people dance freely and smiling not because they were ordered, but because their hearts wanted to. He realized then that true friendship was more than whispers in the hall. It was sharing life itself. The next challenge was finding a way to bring that life to them. Ravi spoke with Mira about it the following evening. "Mira, what if we could show them something from our world? Not in the hall, but outside it." Mira frowned. "The guards will not allow it." Ravi shook his head. "Perhaps not now. But storms come, distractions happen. One day a chance will appear. When it does, we must be ready." Mira's eyes brightened. "Yes, a song. A story, a dance. Something small, but something true. If they see our true joy, maybe they will find their own." And so the idea was planted. It was dangerous, but so was silence. For silence could only keep them chained, while friendship could open the way to freedom. The next weeks were filled with caution, but also hope. Each time Ravi or Mira whispered to Leora or Saren, the words carried more meaning. They spoke not only of the law, but of the world outside. Ravi told Leora about the river, about the fish that leapt from its surface at sunrise. Mira told Saren about the village square where children played games. The alien women listened with wide eyes as if the simplest human things were treasures they had never known. One day, while leaving the hall, Ravi heard Leora whisper just 2 words, but they filled him with warmth. She said, "Thank you." It was the first time she had spoken without fear, without hesitation. It was the first time she had given not only her name but her heart. Ravi walked home that evening with Mira, and both of them felt the same truth. The law could command bodies, but it could not command souls. Souls reached out to each other, found each other, and built bonds stronger than chains. "By the river under the stars," Ravi said softly. "The spark has been lit. One day it will become a flame." Mira smiled. Yes, and flames spread quickly when hearts are ready. For now, the law still stood. The hall still opened each morning. The guards still watched. But something invisible had begun, something no ruler could see or stop. It was the beginning of friendship, and from friendship would come courage. The spark of friendship had started as a whisper, but whispers spread faster than anyone expected. Ravi and Mira had shared small truths with Leora and Saren. Now those truths moved quietly from person to person. Carried by trust never spoken loudly but always felt deeply, the hall remained the same on the surface. Every morning the humans walked in. Every morning the alien women greeted them, and every morning the guards stood like stone pillars. Yet the silence inside the hall was no longer empty. Beneath it, hearts were speaking to each other. One evening after leaving the hall, Ravi and Mira met with a group of villagers near the river. Nalan the old farmer was there, along with a few younger men and women who had grown tired of the law. They sat in a circle, their voices hushed but steady. Nalan spoke first. "We have all seen it. This law is not joy, it is control. But now I see that even the alien women feel the same. If they are with us, then perhaps the time has come to act." Ravi looked around the circle. Faces glowed faintly in the firelight. Some were afraid, others determined. "We must be careful," Ravi said. "The guards are always watching, but we can resist in ways that are peaceful. We can show them that joy cannot be ordered." Mira added, "We can sing again. We can dance again. Not in the hall where they force us, but here under the stars by our own choice. If the alien women see this, they will know the truth of who we are." The group agreed. That night they sang a soft song together. It was an old village song, one that spoke of rivers, fields, and skies. Their voices rose into the night air, gentle yet strong. For the first time in many months, Ravi felt free. The next day in the hall, Ravi noticed something new. Leora looked at him with eyes that asked a question without words. Ravi leaned forward slightly and whispered, "Last night we sang." Her lips parted in surprise. She whispered back, "A song." Ravi nodded. "Yes, a song of our people." It was true joy, not duty. Her eyes shone with something bright, something unspoken but powerful. It was hope. That evening, Mira told Saren the same thing. Saren's face softened and she whispered, "We have no songs, only chants of duty. Tell me your song one day." Mira promised she would. The resistance did not begin with shouts or banners. It began with songs sung by the river, with dances in the fields at night, with stories told in secret circles. Humans were remembering themselves, and the alien women, though still bound by the law, were quietly drawn to this hidden life. Soon Ravi noticed that during the hall sessions, the alien women would ask small questions. Leora asked, "What is a festival?" Saren asked Mira, "What is a fire dance?" Other women asked about food, about children's games, about the meaning of laughter. Every question showed their hunger for freedom, but freedom always carries risk. One morning, as Ravi whispered to Leora, a guard's gaze lingered on them longer than usual. Ravi forced himself to sit straight and speak no more. His heart raced. He knew the guards were not blind. If they saw too much, they would act. That night, Ravi spoke to Mira. "We must be careful. If the guards discover us, they may punish the women as well." Mira nodded. "Yes, but fear cannot stop us forever. The law is already cracking. We must move with care, but we must also move forward." The villagers continued to meet in secret. They made plans to invite the alien women to see their songs and dances. It was dangerous, yet they believed it was the only way to break the silence. The chance came one evening when a storm struck again. The rain poured hard and thunder shook the sky. The guards gathered near the doors of the hall, distracted by the weather. In the cover of the storm, Ravi whispered to Leora, "Come to the river tomorrow night. You will see true joy." For a long moment she hesitated. Then she gave the smallest nod. The following night, Ravi, Mira, and the villagers gathered by the river. They lit torches and the flames flickered in the darkness. The drums began to beat and voices rose in song. It was not loud enough to carry to the guards in the distance, but it was strong enough to fill every heart present. And then, from the shadows, Leora and Saren appeared. They walked slowly, their silver and amber eyes shining in the firelight. The villagers gasped softly, but Ravi stepped forward with open hands. "Welcome," he said. "This is our joy." The alien women watched in silence as the villagers danced and sang. The children laughed, the elders clapped their hands, and the young men and women moved in circles to the rhythm of the drums. For the first time, Leora's face softened into a true smile, wide and unforced. Saren's eyes glistened as she whispered, So this is what freedom feels like. Mira took Saren's hand and led her into the circle. At first Saren moved awkwardly, uncertain of the steps, but soon she began to laugh, a sound clear and bright. Leora joined as well, her silver hair shining in the torchlight as she spun gently with Ravi. It was a moment no law could create and no law could destroy. Humans and aliens together, not because they were ordered, but because they chose it. But the joy was short-lived. A sharp whistle cut through the night. The guards had arrived. Torches flashed in the distance, and heavy footsteps shook the ground. The villagers froze. Fear filled the air. Ravi quickly raised his hands. Stay calm. Do not fight. Let them see our joy is peaceful. The guards entered the circle, their faces hard. One of them shouted in the alien tongue, and though Ravi could not understand the words, the meaning was clear. They were ordering the alien women back to the hall. Leora and Saren hesitated. They looked at Ravi and Mira, their eyes torn between fear and hope. Then in a voice steady but soft, Leora said, "We came by choice." The guard glared, but Leora did not lower her gaze. Saren stepped forward as well. "We came to see. We came to learn joy." The guards looked uncertain. They could drag the women back, but they could not erase the truth spoken in front of so many witnesses. The villagers stood firm, not fighting, not shouting, only standing with their heads held high. Finally, the guards signaled for the women to return. Leora and Saren walked slowly away, but not before turning their heads back to Ravi and Mira with eyes full of courage. That night, though the gathering was broken, hope was stronger than fear. For the first time, alien women had spoken against the silence, even if only with a few words. The villagers had stood together without violence. The flame was small, but it was burning. In the days that followed, the hall felt different. The guards were stricter, their eyes sharper, but the bond between humans and alien women was stronger than ever. Ravi could see it in Leora's gaze, in Saren's smile, in the way the villagers walked with straighter backs. The law was still there, but its hold was weakening. One evening, Ravi said to Mira, "The time will come when we must stand before the council itself. If we do not, this law will continue forever," Mira agreed. "Yes, and when that day comes, we will not stand alone. We will stand with them." The resistance was no longer just whispers or hidden songs. It was a living force, carried by every person who had felt the weight of the law and chosen to dream of freedom. And though danger loomed, Ravi knew one truth above all. No law could command joy, and no power could chain the human spirit once it had begun to rise. The morning sky over the village was quiet, yet the air was heavy with expectation. For weeks the people had spoken in whispers about freedom. Ravi had become one of the voices that carried courage. Mira stood with him, steady and unafraid. Even some alien women inside the halls had begun to share glances of agreement. Something was coming closer, like a storm building beyond the hills. The Council of the Union had grown uneasy. Reports spread through their stations that humans were beginning to question the law. The alien rulers did not like unrest. To them, order was safety. Yet the more they tightened their hold, the more restless the people became. On that morning, Ravi rose early and walked toward the river. He needed the sound of flowing water to clear his thoughts. Mira joined him, carrying a basket of fruit. They sat on a rock near the edge. For a while, neither spoke. Then Mira broke the silence. "Do you think we are ready?" Ravi looked at her. Her eyes were calm but strong. "I think we are. We have been waiting too long. The law may bind our bodies, but it cannot bind our hearts." They both knew what the day would bring. Word had spread from village to village. People would walk to the hall as they always did, but this time something would be different. This time they would speak. Not in whispers, not in secret, but in full voice. When the sun reached its highest point, the crowd gathered. Men, women, and children walked together. Ravi stood among them, holding Mira's hand. The hall shimmered ahead, its walls shining like liquid metal. Inside, the alien women waited as always, their faces calm but their eyes tired. The humans entered, and for a moment silence filled the room. Normally, each person would sit, offer greetings, and follow the duty. But today Ravi stepped forward. His heart pounded, but his voice was clear. "We have followed this law every day. We have walked here and smiled. We have spoken as you asked. But we have no joy in this. You cannot command joy. Joy is born from freedom," gasps filled the hall. Some humans nodded in agreement. Others stood frozen, afraid of what might come. The alien women looked at one another with wide eyes. None of them spoke against him. Ravi continued. We are not refusing peace. We want peace. But peace is not built on orders. It is built on choice. If you truly came to bring harmony, then you must let us live with open hearts. Remove this law. Mira stepped forward beside him. Her voice rang clear. We ask not only for ourselves. We ask for you as well. We see your eyes. We see that you too are bound by this rule. Let us all be free. The hall grew louder as more voices joined. Farmers, workers, elders, and children began to speak together. They said the same words again and again. Joy cannot be forced. Joy is freedom. The alien women listened in silence. Then the one with silver hair, the same who had whispered to Ravi long ago, stepped forward. She raised her hand and the room fell still. What you say is true. We too have felt the chain of this law. It was given to us by the rulers of the Union. They believe harmony must be shaped like clay, pressed and molded until it fits their design. But harmony cannot live like that. We will stand with you. A murmur of shock spread through the humans. For the first time, an alien woman had spoken against the law openly. She turned to her sisters, and one by one they nodded. Their calm faces broke into something rare and real. Not duty, but agreement. Outside the hall, Union guards waited in their silver armor. They heard the rising voices within and moved forward. But before they could enter, the alien women blocked the doorway. The guards hesitated, confused by the defiance of their own kind. The silver-haired woman lifted her voice so even those outside could hear. No more forced duty. No more hollow joy. If the Union truly stands for harmony, then it must listen. If it does not listen, then it has no right to rule. Ravi felt the air shift. The people were no longer afraid. They stood tall, their voices strong. For the first time, humans and alien women spoke as one. The words carried beyond the hall into the village, into the hills, across the rivers. Messengers took the message to other towns. Soon the whole region was alive with the same cry. The Union could not silence them all. The rulers in orbit listened with unease. They sent envoys to meet the leaders of the villages. They sent promises of lighter rules and softer words, but the people answered with one voice. Remove the law. Let us be free. For many weeks the struggle continued. The Union hesitated. If they used force, they would break the image of harmony they valued so much. If they allowed freedom, they feared losing control. Yet the voices of both humans and alien women grew louder each day. Finally, the decision came. A new message was broadcast across the world. The law was ended. The daily duty was no longer required. The halls would remain open as places of meeting and friendship, but never again by force. Choice would guide them, not command. The day the message was read in Ravi's village, the people erupted in cheer. Children ran through the streets. Elders wept with relief. Mira laughed, her face bright with hope. Ravi stood silent for a moment, the sound of joy washing over him like rain. Then he smiled, wide and true. Later that evening, the silver-haired alien woman approached him outside the hall. You spoke when others were silent. Because of that, we are free. Not only your people, but ours as well. For that we thank you. Ravi shook his head. I only spoke the truth. It was all of us together who made this change, she smiled. This time it was not the calm smile of duty, but the warm smile of choice. Yes, together. The weeks that followed were filled with new beginnings. Some humans continued to visit the halls by choice. They shared songs, stories, and meals with the alien women. Real friendships began to grow. Other humans chose to return fully to their old ways, planting fields and singing their own songs. Both paths were respected, for both were free. The Union remained in orbit, watching carefully. But they no longer carried the same weight in the hearts of the people. Humans had learned something powerful. They had learned that even under foreign rule, their spirit could not be broken. They had learned that joy is strongest when it rises from freedom. One night, Ravi and Mira walked together along the river. The stars reflected on the water, bright and endless. The alien ships glimmered among them, no longer symbols of fear, but reminders of what had been overcome. Mira spoke softly. Do you think they will try again with another law? Ravi thought for a long time before answering. Perhaps. Rulers always try to shape others, but now we know our strength. Now we know joy cannot be commanded. If they try again, we will rise again. They stood in silence, listening to the flowing river. Somewhere in the distance, drums began to play. The same free rhythm that had given Ravi hope long ago. The sound carried through the night air, filled with laughter and life. Ravi closed his eyes and let the rhythm sink into his heart. This was joy. Not duty, not law, not order. Joy born from freedom, shared by people who had chosen to stand together. The stars above shimmered brighter, as if the universe itself listened. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not as servants of law but as keepers of joy. And nothing could take that away.